Okay, we will continue here, beginning with Esoteric Astrology Adventure number 109B, page 391. And as we resume our initial theme, I would call your attention to the fact that through the exoteric or orthodox planet Venus, this sign Taurus is related to Gemini, Libra, and Capricorn. Gemini, esoteric ruler; Libra, orthodox ruler; Capricorn, hierarchical ruler. It's one of those very important processes in esoteric astrology to relate the different constellations which share the same ruler on one or other of the three levels, exoteric, esoteric, and hierarchical. It is of interest to note that Taurus is therefore related to the Mutable Cross by a linking stream of energy via Venus, but is at the same time linked in a dual sense, excuse me, dual sense with two arms of the Cardinal Cross by a Venusian connection with Libra and Capricorn. So the intensity of connection to a cross is determined by how many signs a planet may rule on that cross. To a cross is determined by how many signs a planet may rule on that cross. There is therefore to the true Taurian who reaches illumination, and let's consider illumination to be minimally the third degree, one link with the body and soul aspects of expression, and two links with the soul and spirit. So body and soul relates to the Mutable Cross, and especially via Gemini. Relating, rotating, okay, RLT, relating to the Mutable Cross via Gemini, which in a way links body and soul, and relating to the Cardinal Cross via Libra and also Capricorn. Of course, the Taurian link is on the fixed cross, naturally. There is therefore to the true Taurian, and this must be the one who fulfills the true objective of the sign, the one who fulfills the true objective of this sign, who reaches illumination, and let's call that the third degree. One link with the body and soul aspect of expression, and two links with the soul and spirit. Now, I guess he's considering the Cardinal Cross to be both soul and spirit. Considering the Cardinal Cross to be both soul and spirit. Thus is shown the perfection of the sublimation process, a translation into a higher dimension altogether, for aspiration has entirely superseded desire as a motivating agency. If we really look at it, at the rulerships, we have one ruler on the Mutable Cross, one ruler of Taurus itself on the fixed cross, and two rulers on the Cardinal Cross of spirit. The soul is linked with form, yes, the soul considering Venus to be Venus and Taurus, but its major link, well, the soul is considered to be Venus in a way, just as the soul, just as Venus is in a way the higher octave of the earth, or plays the function of soul to the personality which earth represents. So Venus represents the soul of man. The soul is linked with form, but its major link is with the spirit. And it is for this reason that in Taurus the man comes to the point wherein the real goal, or true vision, appears, which is only conferred, let us say, this is only conferred by the spirit. Now, you know, we could do this we could study the same process. We could say, well, okay, Mercury has a link with two planets on the common cross, one on the cardinal, one on the fixed. So perhaps its greatest link is with soul and form. Although, given the truly occult nature of Mercury and the fact that it receives 7 times more light than the Earth, whereas Venus receives only 3 times more light, and whereas Mercury also is going to be ruling the cosmic ethers, we could wonder whether this is correct. When it comes to the Earth, it's ruling only in 2 places, and both of them are on the Mutable Cross. Thus, the link is with soul and personality, soul and form. When it comes to Mars, it's ruling in Aries, Scorpio and Sagittarius. It seems that to be equally linked, a link to all the crosses. I think so. When it comes to Jupiter, there are 4. Jupiter is linked to, to Virgo hierarchically, to Sagittarius orthodoxly, and to Pisces orthodoxly, and only to the fixed cross. Jupiter, a very advanced planet, so we wonder whether how this type of structure can be carried out all the way through, because then Jupiter has 3 links to the body-soul of the common cross through Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces, and only 1 link via Jupiter to 1 link via Aquarius, rather, to something that is higher and may include soul and spirit. So we wonder whether this can be carried forward with the same explanatory power as it seems to have here when he discusses how Taurus is linked to the different crosses, twice to the cardinal and only once to the mutable. Whereas with the case of Jupiter, 3 times to the mutable and once to the fixed. When it comes to Uranus, there are 2 cardinal links, Aries and Libra. There's also a fixed link via Aquarius, and another fixed link as the veiled esoteric ruler of Leo. There is no, as far as I see, no Uranian link to any of these signs of the Mutable Cross, and so it could be said that Uranus is not dealing in a way with body and soul at all, but with soul and spirit. Well, anyway, this is the way that one can expand the point which is made here about major links and minor links. The major link here of Venus is with Libra and Capricorn, 2 factors on the Cardinal Cross that have definitely to do with spirit and spirit-soul, I suppose. When we talk about soul, body and soul, we're talking about the personality and the center on the higher mental plane. When we're talking about soul and spirit, we're talking about the spiritual triad and the monad. Desire in its lowest expression is linked with form. in Taurus, and the moon is exalted, the moon a non-sacred planet, and as a result the non-sacred part of man is especially accented. Aspirational idealism in its highest possible expression is also achieved in Taurus. This is a quotation that I often refer to, and I'd like to make that quite big if I can. Something that always hits home for me. We are spoken. It is spoken of the wings of idealism. The idea of wings is associated with Taurus. Well, I guess it's also associated with the fourth initiation and with the fourth ray, gaining one's angelic wings, as it were. But on the wings of aspiration, one can fly, even as the arrow released in Sagittarius flies with the winged heels of Mercury. An interesting statement which relates it to Gemini, of course. Aspirational idealism in its highest possible expression is also achieved in Taurus, and we cannot really separate aspirational idealism from the sixth ray, so I don't think we can separate at least one of the functions of Taurus from the sixth ray. They both are connected. Taurus rules the astral body, the solar plexus rules the astral body. Aspiration arises in the astral body. Idealism, also emotional idealism at least, arises in the astral body. Taurus is linked with the astral body and the sixth ray. Let's put that down. And the sixth ray. Oop. With the sixth ray, yes. So we don't know the other rays that are coming through Taurus, but certainly there will be more than simply the fourth ray, even though they may not be accentuated in one of the world periods to which DK refers, and especially in this world period, however long that may be. Aspiration, and I also think about idealism per se. What about idealism per se? And idealism per se is found per se is found on the Buddhic plane, I believe. Let us take a quick look here at a treatise on cosmic fire, page 188 or so. And we'll see whether it is Buddhic or Atmic. I believe it is, yes, it is Buddhic. So the Buddha, Taurus, Mercury, the Buddhic plane, and idealism are all linked. So a high form of idealism will be found on the third subplane of the Buddhic plane, and to this, Taurus will be linked. Okay, aspiration is linked, however, in its lowest expression with the soul, and in its highest expression with the spirit. So that is the, which link is this? The spirit link is related to the Buddhic plane and its third sub-level. I suppose it is the magnetism of the soul which inspires in the astral body the first type of aspiration. So let's say the magnetism of the soul inspires aspiration in the astral body. Unless there is some faith-linked contact with the soul, some sense of this higher self, there will be nothing towards which to aspire. Self-will relates man to form. It always has to do with how the little self will assert itself on its own behalf. How the little self will assert itself on its own behalf. The will of God relates the soul of man to the spirit. It is linking the higher two aspects of man. It takes 3 initiations to make this clear to the disciple. And he seems to be linking Taurus with the 3rd degree. Now, it is so linked with the dissipation of glamour at the 2nd degree, and very definitely linked with the breaking forth of light, with the destruction of the causal body at the 4th degree. We wonder why it should not be linked with the great illumination at the 3rd degree. I think about Father Damien, who was a Capricorn with Taurus rising. And it seems to me to be a 3rd degree signature, and he went on, I think, to make some very ultimate sacrifices on behalf of the lepers of Molokai Island, setting an incredible example for others, an example of selflessness and disregard of his own safety. Truly, if you see his picture, it's an amazing thing. Maybe I have turned to that occasionally. I wonder if I can, under my pictures, if I can find a picture of his burning eyes, showing his 6th ray, you know, D-A-M-I-E-N. Is there anything here of that nature? My Father Damien. Well, I do know he is here somewhere. And maybe what I will have to do is see if I'll try one other thing. See if there's any way that I can possibly locate him, Father Damien. These are Father Damien. Father Damien, there's so much about him here. He seems to be someone who inspires. Here I'm showing a picture of Father Damien, which I managed to find. I'm not sure how much bigger we can make it and preserve the quality, but there's this tremendous look in the eye. You see the broad flattening of the Taurian nose. You also see the earlobes here of the Taurian, and you see the eyebrows slanting downward, which connects with the 2nd ray and the 6th ray. DK has said that the death of a Hitler or the death of a Father Damien are 2 very different things. Well, there are other pictures of him that show him in a far more compromised state, you know, having contracted the leprosy, but this shows a high initiate along the 6th ray line, as far as I can see, one who is willing to sacrifice all. Anyway, he is a blend of this Taurus and Capricorn energy, and so it's not his self-will that is being asserted here. It's his spirit and his soul working through the personality, and it may very well be that in that incarnation he took the 4th initiation. As DK said, the death of a master of a Jesus or a Father Damien is quite a different matter than the death of a Hitler occurring under the material aspect of the ray concerned. Anyway, it takes 3 initiations to make clear to the disciple the linking of the soul of man to the spirit. And of course, Jupiter and Gemini will also help with this linking, as we have discussed. Jupiter in Gemini facilitates this linking. But there's no reason, I think, why the Taurus should not be related in terms of its light content to the third initiation. Right. Moving on then. Looking at the matter from another angle, Venus, the mind or the soul, in Libra, reveals to man the exoteric significance and results of desire. Venus illumines, and Libra demonstrates consequences, karmic consequences of action undertaken in Aries, Mars. So he's going to tell us about the different levels of the Venus functioning as it works through the different signs. It takes 3 initiations to make clear to the disciple what the real will of God is and how it has to do with the soul and spirit aspect and not with the form. If will is linked to the form, there is a distortion. Okay. Looking at the matter from another angle, Venus, the mind or soul in Libra, reveals to man the exoteric significance and results of desire. Okay, so in the consequences, the karmic consequences, are revealed with Venus in Libra, and the type of fulfillment which desire actually brings. There are many other things about Venus and Libra, of course. There's the whole question of the divine marriage found here, the marriage in the heavens. But DK is approaching this from a very specific way. In Gemini, Venus reveals, see, he really is linking Venus to desire. Venus is being linked to desire. In Gemini, Venus reveals the desire of the pairs of opposites for each other, for this is the underlying theme of the entire creative and evolutionary process, the interplay of the opposites. So the magnetic relationship between the pairs of opposites, which is fostered by Venus. The desire of the pairs of opposites because, of course, there comes a time of awakening to the Venusian vibration when the will of the soul, the love of the soul, the very being of the soul becomes the long-sought treasure. And ever the compassionate soul, solar angel, is interested in the redemption and upliftment. So this is the magnetic relationship between Castor and Pollux, or between the twins, or you can look at one as the male and the other the female, and you can reverse them. The soul can be male and the personality female, or probably much better the other way. The soul as the higher type of female and the personality being Martian and masculine. So in a way, the higher of the pairs of opposites in Gemini is Venusian, and the lower pair is Martian. Lower of the pairs is Martian. In Capricorn, Venus reveals to man that desire for the whole, for the universal, which is the hallmark of the initiate and the true expression of spiritual life. The desire for the whole and for the universal, for the wholeness of divine realization, whether within our planetary sphere or even within our solar systemic sphere. Wholeness is always involved with the initiate consciousness. The realization of wholeness is always involved with the initiate consciousness. And I don't think he spoke in this particular context of the meaning of Venus in relation to Taurus. It had something to do with intelligent desire, as I recall. Let's just see. We'll take a look here. Venus, Taurus, intelligent. We'll go to a different page altogether. And it is page 245. Venus rules in Taurus, Libra, and Capricorn is the source of intelligent mind, acting either through desire in the early stages or love in the later stages. In Taurus, this means mind expressing itself through intelligent desire. Here is the supplementary material, but that is the goal of knowledge for ordinary man. In Libra, the point of balance or equilibrium is attained between material personal desire and intelligent spiritual love, for the two qualities of cosmic desire are brought to the fore in the consciousness of Libra and balance one against the other. In Capricorn, it stands for spiritual love expressing itself perfectly when the work in Taurus and Libra has been accomplished. So I think we'll highlight that. Okay. So that's an important supplement, page 244 and 245, and we are on page 390 something. So I'll put that down. Check Esoteric Astrology 244 and 245 for supplementary material. So Venus is the mind, soul, the intelligent, appreciating consciousness, which is essentially finally detached from all in the lower worlds that it appreciates, but particularly linked with intelligent desire in relation to Taurus. It is not just random desire as we find in relation to Mars, but it has been somewhat refined through experience. And the desire is for that which is constructive. And that is the goal of knowledge for ordinary man. The acquisition of knowledge prompted by intelligent desire. We see here how the Venusian quality is elevated in its nature as it approaches the hierarchical rulership. In Gemini, Venus reveals the desire of the pairs of opposites for each other. I suppose if a person has this, the soul life can be quite intense, with a magnetic reaching of each of the poles towards each other and each swinging into the orbit of the other and influenced and fed and sustained by the other. And finally, Capricorn, the highest, the desire for the whole. So we see the quality of of desire increasing. The quality of desire is raised with the ascending relationships. Of course, it's still an orthodox rulership of Venus in relation to Libra, but there's another way of viewing this progression from Taurus to Gemini to Libra and thence to Capricorn. Even though it is an exoteric rulership, Libra is on the Cardinal Cross, and so the meaning of spirit soul, of triad monad, is pronounced. Okay. Now let us move a little further. When we come to consideration of the esoteric ruler of Taurus, we find ourselves confronted by Vulcan, one of the veiled and hidden planets, and who knows why still undiscovered. With all of our advanced astronomy, DK does tell us that it is actually a physical planet. And does he use the word dense physical. We can see, if we look here at esoteric healing and go back just a little bit, the dense physical planets. Vulcan is listed right here on page 693, not just as an etheric planet, but as a dense physical planet. And so as we are looking for it, we can expect it to appear on the level of density also. At least what DK says here directly contradicts what so many seem to want to say, that Vulcan is strictly a etheric planet. So it's one of the veiled and hidden planets, and this is what it is that makes me suspect, in the Esoteric Astrology book on page, let's say 71, that when the third initiation occurs, there is a fearful conflict between Mars and the moon, veiling a hidden planet. I do believe it is Vulcan, and I do believe we're looking at Vulcan as a planet of luminosity and of great will at that particular point. So Vulcan, one of the veiled and hidden planets, and one which is therefore little known or understood except by initiates who have access to this type of information. I have earlier referred to Vulcan as the fashioner of divine expression. This is involving both the seventh ray and the fourth ray and the power of the first ray. In a peculiar sense, the energy which streams from Vulcan is fundamentally the strength and potency which sets the world evolutionary process in motion. To set in motion, and that's why Vulcan is connected with Aries, the initiator, as well as with Taurus, which in which sign it strikes the hammer blow, which sets all things vibrating. The world evolutionary process, this is a vibrational process. It embodies also the energy of the first ray, that force which initiates or begins. Right, the force which initiates or begins, and that which also destroys. Vulcan, interestingly, has kind of a dual mode of expression, just as the first ray does. One is constructive and builds solidly, just as the first ray builds solidly in the outer world of human physical form. But there's also the other aspect of this first ray, that of the destroyer. And the hammer blow of Vulcan can shatter crystallization. So it embodies also the energy of the first ray, that force which initiates and begins, and that which also destroys, bringing about the death of the form in order that the soul may be set free. Well, there are some human beings who have tapped into this energy of Vulcan. They have not necessarily done it in a positive way. Those who are using the powerful armaments fashioned for destructive purposes have tapped into the energy of Vulcan, and it's usually to promote some aspect of self-will or of nationalistic self-will. It's generally not yet for the welfare of all nations and for all human beings. Vulcan is the ray, is it a ray? Or planet of isolation. Now, the first ray can be isolated. Alone I stand and am I know too much. This is the fourth ray integration formula. And we have the initiate of the fourth degree using the fourth ray, feeling very isolated before this initiation is completed. So there's always an issue about love or relationship when it comes to the first ray. In a peculiar sense, DK says, it governs the fourth initiation, where in the depths of aloneness, and we might say off of any cross are plumbed, and man is thrown back upon himself, really, and apparently does not have the resources provided by other more powerful agencies to be which support him. So the depths of aloneness are plumbed, and the man stands completely isolated, but he does stand. And the first ray does stand up, press outward into life, achieve a goal, it is said in the first ray integration formula. He stands detached from that which is above and that which is below. So in a way, detached from two crosses, both the Cardinal Cross and the Fixed Cross. And there comes a dramatic moment when all desire is renounced, and one might say Vulcan is the expert in renouncing desire, as the Buddha demonstrated, being a strongly Vulcanian type, being so much identified with Taurus. Desire, let's say, desire gives way to will. So the man stands completely isolated, thrown back upon his own resources, unable in a way to rely upon his solar angel. He must become a sort of lesser solar angel himself at that point. He stands detached from that which is above, and that and this, which is below. This usually refers to what is nearer, and that to what is more remote. And there comes a dramatic moment when all desire is renounced, I would say in favor of will. The will of God is seen. The will of God, or the plan, is seen as the only desirable objective, but as yet the man has not proved himself. And the man must indeed prove himself. This is going to work out in Taurus and also in Scorpio, where the tests are applied to see if he can demonstrate upon the physical plane all that he is, regardless of the obstacles. The man has not proved himself to the world of men or to his master, whether he has the strength to move forward along the line of service. And, of course, Taurus is a sign of great strength, and Vulcan a planet of strength. Okay. Strength to move forward along the line of service. It is really a test of strength, from what we understand, to pass through this fourth degree. The renunciation of anything for the separate self, and even for the separate soul. So let's put that down. Renouncing all, anything that the separated self or individual soul may desire, in order really to fulfill the divine plan. Even soul objectives which have been worked up from below must be renounced in favor of that greater plan and the purpose behind it. And Vulcan will allow an externalizing process by which man may prove himself both to the world and to his master. If he manages to prove himself to the world, it will also be to his master. Does he have the strength to move forward along the line of service? And here we ask, does he have the strength to sacrifice all? There is revealed to him, as there was revealed to the Christ at the fourth great initiatory crisis in his life. Of course, for the Christ it was really the sixth, but here we're talking about the consciousness of the Master Jesus, pervaded by the Christ consciousness, the consciousness of the Master Jesus, as it was pervaded by the presence of the Christ and his consciousness, just as it was revealed to the Christ that the fourth great initiatory crisis in his life, some definite active undertaking, which embodies that aspect of the will of God which it is his peculiar function to appropriate and make possible of expression. But you know, if we do begin to count major initiations for the Christ, then the sixth initiation becomes the fourth great initiatory crisis, not just initiatory crisis. So from this perspective, the fourth great initiatory crisis is that of the sixth initiation. So we have to be careful about major and minor initiations. The Master Jesus, or the Initiate Jesus at the time, definitely had to sacrifice his life and undergo the ordeal of renunciation. The Christ was on a higher system of initiations, a group of solar initiations, and it's the fourth great initiatory crisis that could be considered the sixth degree. And I'll accent that word great because the major initiations really begin at the third. So we have the third, fourth, fifth, and then sixth. This is what the Christ passed through in the Garden of Gethsemane. We cannot call that process in the garden the fourth initiation, but we can call it the fourth great initiatory crisis along the solar line. This has been called in the Christian phraseology the Gethsemane experience. The Christ kneeling beside the rock, symbolic of the depths of the mineral kingdom and of the activity of Vulcan. The mineral kingdom, in a way, being the crystallized will of God. Vulcan the fashioner raised his eyes upward to where the light of revelation breaks forth. So he concentrated, I suppose, upon the monadic level, as he was applying to know the will of God, the planetary logos, and he would need monadic consciousness to do this. He raised his eyes upward to where the light of revelation breaks forth and knows at that moment what he has to do. There's not such a discussion about the revelation that came to the Master Jesus. He had to pass through the renunciation with strength and dignity and somehow setting an example. The Christ had done that in an earlier time as Krishna, taking the fourth initiation as Krishna, and now had a different and far wider and more planetary objective before him. The Christ kneeling beside the rock, symbolic of the depths of the mineral kingdom and of the activity of Vulcan, and very much alone because his disciples were sleeping, even though he asked them to watch and pray with him. He raises his eyes upward to where the light of revelation breaks forth. Let's call this the triadal planes, and especially the monadic plane, and knows at that moment what it is he has to do. Because the divine will, through his own monad, has been revealed to him. And then that first tenuous link with the true will of God, that link which unites the will of God to humanity, is established. Such is the test of Vulcan, ruling Taurus, of the soul, ruling desire. Well, Vulcan is a reducing valve of the energy of Taurus, but the soul is the true ruler of desire at this point, and by the soul we mean triadal consciousness, which is planetary in its scope, and we do not mean the consciousness of the causal body, of the Son of God fashioning his instrument of expression in the depths, just as Hercules did, and grasping the divine purpose, and so bending the will of the little self to that of the greater self. Vulcan is active in both senses, the greater will and the lesser will, but the lesser will is bent to the greater will. Such is the test of Vulcan ruling Taurus. Taurus is greater than Vulcan, of course, so the ruling means that it rules how much of Taurus can come through it. Of the soul ruling desire, which indeed it does rule. Of the Son of God, fashioning his instrument of expression, which is the personality, in the depths, which we can consider to be the lower 18 subplanes, which is the dense physical body of the planetary logos, or if there are 21 subplanes, the dense physical body of the solar logos, grasping the divine purpose, the pattern which must be achieved, and so bending the will of the little self, the self-will, to the will of the greater self. The depths have been reached, and there is no more to be done. So from the highest to the lowest, this will is brought through into expression. The light from the eye of the bull, which with ever-increasing radiance has guided the struggling soul, must give place eventually to the light of the sun. Well, the eye of the bull is more remote, and as I said, it could mean Al-Deb-Aran, but it must give way eventually to the light of the sun, which is our own central star. For Vulcan, lighted Vulcan is really a substitute for the sun. This is one of those places where we gather the idea that Vulcan and the sun are one, just like Mercury and the sun are one. It is spoken of sometimes as being veiled by the sun, that is Vulcan, and at others it stands for the sun itself. It stands between the man and the sun, the soul. So Vulcan has an intermediary function here, being instrumental to the soul and its will. It is the will of the soul being carried out. So Vulcan is a lighted planet, a planet of strength, a planet of will, and not only may it be veiled by the sun, but at other times Vulcan is considered to be the sun itself. The humble blacksmith with the game leg, which was wounded when his mother threw him out of heaven because of his ugliness, threw him off Mount Olympus, has a great brilliance and innate artfulness to his nature. Therefore, we have in connection three symbols of light, and that is Taurus, the eye of illumination or light, the bull's eye, illumination exoterically correlated with the physical sun, Vulcan, the one who reveals that which is deeply hidden and brings it up into the light. It seems to have a similar function here to the Plutonic function. Similar function to that of Pluto. It's esoterically the heart of the sun. And that word esoterically has something to do with the monadic nature of Vulcan, which I think ultimately is the second ray. Being very close to that of the sun, I think its first ray is its soul ray, but its monad is more on the 4-2 line, Taurus, Vulcan, and the sun itself. The great illuminator, spiritually, the central spiritual sun, here standing particularly for the monadic aspect of our solar logos. So these are all sources of great light. Taurus, Vulcan, and the Sun. Taurus, Vulcan, and the Sun, sources of great light, indeed. We can easily think of this in connection with Taurus. We think of it in connection with our greatly illuminating sun, but we don't think of it so much in relation to Vulcan. But it is a very luminous planet and is responsible for the breaking forth of light out of matter, through matter, rending the veil of matter, and revealing a great light. I'm thinking of Vulcan, first-ray Vulcan, in relation to the St. Paul experience, the dramatic experience of being blinded for 3 days, and DK says he checked the record and found out it was indeed so. The masters can always verify the truth of various assertions. So we're dealing with symbols of light. Interesting that Taurus, though it is earthy, would be connected with the physical sun. From another point of view, it is a far greater source of illumination either than our sun or than Vulcan. But it's one of those strange reversals where the greater source is allied with the lesser aspect of the sun. Okay. Thus, from every angle, illumination remains the theme of the sign. And this we do not get in exoteric astrology, do we? When we look at Taurus, we hardly think of the highest form of aspirational idealism. We hardly think of the wings of aspiration and the great revelations connected with Aldebaran, the eye of the bull. That is why we study the greater type of astrology, and even with this we have only the ABCs. The veil has been lifted just a little, but enough to give us a tremendous idea concerning the energies which substand all of manifested appearance. So we have somewhat considered the rays and their effect and relationships as they, through Taurus and its rulers, pour their force and energy into the individual man or into humanity as a whole. Taurus has a very great range of effectiveness. It is a tremendous constellation intimately related to our solar logos, who is on the path of the solar logoi and is displaying cosmic buddhi, just as is the case with the Pleiades. Of course, the dragon as well is displaying cosmic buddhi, so you wonder which one of these two sources has a greater part to play in the destiny of our solar logos and educating our solar logos. The two rays which directly affect the sign, considering perhaps the sign not as the constellation, as we have seen, are the fifth through Venus and the first through Vulcan. These two, when viewed in combination with the Earth, which is an expression of the third ray, demonstrate a most difficult combination of rays. These are what DK calls the Prussian rays, and there was an individual who was one of his disciples who could not learn to walk in gentleness with her fellow disciples, with those around her, and she was a demonstration of these rays: first ray soul, fifth ray personality, third ray mind. The combination needs somehow to be ameliorated by rays of relationship. So the fifth ray of Venus and the first ray of Vulcan, if you look at the tetractys, these are 2 points, one of which is under the other. The first ray represented by the topmost point, then come 2, and then come 3 with the third, with the central dot being directly under the first. That's the connection of the 1 and the 5, and sure enough, those who are on the fifth ray in their soul, one of their lines of development towards the abstract rays is to move onto the first ray. So I think this is where we will leave off at this point. This is the end of Esoteric Astrology Adventure 109B. And we'll see where we are, page 393. That's where we are. And we'll begin with Esoteric Astrology 109C. And also page 393. And we will close this section with the great invocation. It kind of reminds us of why we are studying these deep matters anyway. It's all to bring the divine plan to earth, to facilitate the reappearance of the Christ and the transformation of humanity during the Aquarian age. So here we go. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Okay, friends, we will move on to 109C, most likely. Either that or 110A, we'll see how the time goes.